A few weeks ago, I posted a video in which I said, what if they tried another 9/11 today? Actually, it wasn't just a video. I think I discussed it in a video or two, but I actually wrote about it on my Substack page. What if they tried another 9/11 today? And my conclusions were that things would go very differently today if they tried to pull another stunt like that. Whereas back in 2001, there was still there was an incredible amount of trust in the government, in the media, and in authority, generally speaking. There was considerably higher trust than there is now. And now things have broken down, significantly, over the course of just 2 decades and some change. And now, we're at the point where, people would immediately call an event like that into question. Whereas the original event of 9/11 itself, in spite of all of the logical impossibilities that you can easily discern once you scrutinize it, with just a little bit of closeness, you don't even have to look that closely, and you start to see this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, and so forth and so on. But despite that fact, it took a while. It took a good 2, 3, 4 years maybe before people were actually saying, inside job, before that sort of became a thing. And it still was highly, people who had those kinds of ideas, theories, beliefs, whatever, they were still, lampooned and made fun of and called wackos, by all the usual suspects, to such a degree that at the time, really suggested that, again, these sorts of ideas were very marginal, were very radical and just unhinged and so forth. Today, I would submit to you that, in spite of the fact that conspiracy theory has been villainized to a much greater degree now than it was in the early aughts. Despite that fact, or actually that fact is due to, or has been, it's been this kind of anti-conspiracy theorist, not sort of stuff that's out there now, where it's not just conspiracy theorists are weird, conspiracy theorists are crazy, but conspiracy theorists are evil, conspiracy theorists are Nazis, conspiracy theorists are domestic terrorists. That's what they're pushing out into the atmosphere, into the intellectual atmosphere right now. The reason why they're going so hard against conspiracy theorists or so-called conspiracy theorists, is because conspiracy theory has become much more, has gotten much more of a foothold over much more of the population. Back in 2001, that was not the case. Now, all this is preamble to talking about what happened with Israel, and the inexplicable breakdown of their defense systems, which allowed Hamas to invade and murder and kidnap and wreak havoc, and the number of casualties, I think, were in the hundreds, just scattered around northern Israel, near the border where this happened. And what's interesting is, and you don't really see this, and you definitely, I don't watch mainstream news, but I'm just going to presume that you wouldn't see this in mainstream news if you watched it. But what I've been seeing, because some of y'all have been sending me stuff, and some of it just stuff I've found online, is that there are Israeli citizens, people who live in settlements or who are from this or that kibbutz, who are actually saying things like, our government is traitorous, our government is treasonous, our government allowed this to happen because they wanted to pursue their agenda of bombing Gaza to smithereens, having a pretext for doing that. And so they just completely left us defenseless. And you actually see people saying stuff like that, Israeli citizens saying stuff like that. And I wanted to emphasize that because, again, when I recorded my video, I think it was a week or so ago, about ordinary shlomos or regular shlomos, I was kind of encouraging those out there, on the JQ, who tend to look askance on anybody with a Steen in their name or a Witz in their name or whatever, to consider that when it comes to ordinary citizens, they're not that different from ordinary citizens in other places, and that the if you want to talk about people of that ethnicity who are incredibly powerful and who are exercising just enormous amount of power and control and who seem to be totally unscrupulous, those are not the regular Israeli citizens. And so it's interesting to see. In fact, I'll try to find a video or two and post it below to see that so-called conspiracy theories have immediately taken a hold, not just among people in America, but among Israelis, people who were directly in the line of fire for when this massive failure of their defense system, their nation's defense system, broke down, leaving so many of them vulnerable. A lot of them are crying foul for good reason, because maybe it was just due to somebody being asleep at the wheel. Maybe there was maybe it was just a simple case of negligence on the part of the defense of the defense forces. But even if that's the case, there needs to be people court-martialed. There needs to be people who are taken to task for it and brought before some governing board and asked what happened that day. Why did you allow this to happen? And there doesn't seem to be any movement in that regard among, as far as I know, as far as I've heard of, among the Israeli government. Just like after 9/11, this massive breakdown in this also incredibly sophisticated, defense system that's the United States. Nobody was called to task for that. Nobody was brought before Congress or before any kind of judge or jury and asked what's the deal here? Why did you mess up so much? Why did you allow this to happen? Nobody, as far as I know it, nobody from the Pentagon was asked why, when you're manning this heavily fortified building, probably the most fortified building in the world. Anything comes close to Pentagon airspace, it immediately comes under their radar, and if it looks like it's gonna crash into the Pentagon, leaving aside all of the technical improbabilities. I'm not going to get into the question of, whether a plane, made of aluminum can wreak that much, can cause that much damage in the side of a building reinforced by cement, or if it can fly at 500, 600 miles an hour, when it's a few feet off the ground. But again, putting all of that aside, the idea that an object approaches the Pentagon and doesn't get shot down, somebody should be grilled about that. Why? Why didn't that happen? Why didn't you defend this fortification, and save hundreds of lives? I don't know how many people died at the Pentagon, but same kind of question that should be getting asked, but isn't being asked. We see that happening in Israel now. But the difference is today, just like I was saying in my article, what if they tried another 9/11? It's not taking nearly as long for these quote unquote conspiracy theories, which are really just reasonable questions, reasonable responses to massive breakdowns in what should be, again, an incredibly sophisticated defense system, with of course tons of money behind it, a great many intelligent people helping put up the money for it, and put up the having the most sophisticated equipment, but it all breaks down in these third world Stone Age terrorists break in and wreak their havoc. What the hell? How is that allowed to happen? Again, it's not a question you're supposed to be asking, but a lot of people are asking it, and they're not asking it like with 9/11. They're not asking it like 3 or 4 years after the fact. They're asking it like a week or so after the fact. So that's evidence, again, that we see this change taking place in the culture. So those are my thoughts on the subject. What do y'all think? Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching.